Hey everyone, I'm Brent Skarkey from the State Chamber. It's an election year, and we're excited to kick off a brand new interview series on OklahomaDecides.com. The site, the best way to stay up to date with the latest candidate developments in our state. The State Chamber's Chad Warmington going one-on-one with statewide office candidates to give the business community and Oklahomans a great look at what the men and women who are running for office are all about. The interview does not constitute an endorsement from the State Chamber. It's just a place where they can be heard and voters can learn more.
We're excited to have Representative John Pfeiffer here, who's been serving in the Oklahoma House of Representatives since 2014, currently Majority Deputy Floor Leader, and is a candidate for Labor Commissioner. John, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excited to have a conversation. I want to give a little bit of John's background so you all have it. Marine Corps veteran, lifelong rancher, continued his family's agricultural legacy. He's a fifth-generation Oklahoman in ranching, probably in agriculture,
Yes.
fifth generation,
Yep.
right? In the legislature, John has worked on a ton of issues, tax policy, supporting agriculture, small businesses, government efficiency. He resides in rural Logan County with his wife and his family, and they operate a working ranch. And so, John, we're thrilled that you are being willing to serve again and taking up the charge of running for Labor Commissioner. So I'm going to start you off with a big picture question.
Okay.
Your vision for Oklahoma, you're going to execute that through Labor Commissioner. Tell us what your vision for Oklahoma is.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma's, and the whole country really, is kind of on this, I think, edge of a great change. I mean, as we start seeing artificial intelligence, as we start seeing more computerized things come into the workplace, come into our everyday lives, we got to figure out how to deal with that. And as I was terming out of the legislature, I thought, where can I best serve and serve the state of Oklahoma? And I think in the labor commissions where I can do that. Government tends to be reactionary instead of forward thinking. And for the most part, that's okay, because you don't want a government that's out there overreaching and thinking about all these worst case scenarios, but you have to have at least enough vision to figure out where you want to go and have, if you're going to be reactionary, make sure you're not overreacting on the wrong things. And I think it's especially important in regulatory agencies like the Labor Commission that you have somebody in there who has some vision, who knows where they want to go, but they're not just overreaching, that they're not saying, okay, we're going to do these regulations because I think in 5 years this may be a problem. Yeah. And having the kind of judgment to know when it is to write regulations that actually help and encourage business, or just stifle it down because you can. And I think we've seen that in the past, in the history of Oklahoma. Sometimes we have regulatory agencies that start overreaching because they could. And that's why I want to do it, because I think that's where I can serve and use the judgment I've been able to gain here in the State House and figure out where we need to go and make sure we do it temperamentally and not just go crazy with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And you actually jumped ahead and I already answered another question of mine. But we'll come back to it, because I think that balance between regulatory, the role you have as a regulator, and balancing that with kind of your vision of free enterprise and not getting in the way. And I'll come back to that as well. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, we've been talking a lot about our initiative, Oklahoma Competes, but what really Oklahoma Competes is all about is kind of a new way for us, and working with you in the legislature, to look at the state's competitiveness. How competitive are we regionally? How competitive are we nationally? Tell me what the Labor Commissioner office can do to help contribute to Oklahoma's long-term economic competitiveness.
Sure. I think the Labor Department can be integral in kind of bringing all groups together. And I love your initiative. I think kind of the quintessential Oklahoma problem is we want things to get better, but we don't actually want anything to change. We want exactly what we have, just somehow better.
That's right.
And unfortunately, we both know that's not how things work. Things have to change. And I think I've shown this time and time again in the legislature that I can bring groups together, I can work and try to find solutions. And I think the Labor Department, even though it doesn't necessarily have those necessarily constitutional duties, that's where me as Labor Commissioner could come in and say, hey, how do I bring private industry and career techs together better? Yeah. How can I take what we learn from those meetings and take it to higher ed, take it to the legislature and turn it into policy, and then help work its way through the process? I mean, I've spent the last 12 years working with private industry, they come and people in my district, they say, hey, we got this problem. We bring stakeholders together, we figure out a way and a smart solution that doesn't hurt try not to hurt anybody,
Right.
and find a good solution, and then work its way, turn it into policy, and then turn it into law. And I think that's what I've done in my time as a legislature, and that's what I'd like to do here. It's kind of it's hard to brag about soft skills sometimes, but it's what I do. I work well with people, and I try to find solutions and just work and bring it about. And I think a lot of times, especially in state government, everybody gets in their own little cycle, own little silo, and they want to build an empire that's based around them. We see it all the time. Somebody gets elected to something, somebody gets made a department head of something or an agency head, and they're like, well, what can I do to expand this agency and basically glorify myself? That's not what I want to do, but I do want to use the skills I've learned to just bring people together. And at the end of the day, if we have good policy, if we have good solutions to help move the state forward, even if the Labor Department doesn't get any credit, that's what's best.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan once said, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. And that's kind of my motto that I've tried to live by in the legislature, and that's what I'd like to continue doing moving forward.
Yeah. What I hear you really saying too, and it dovetails really nicely into my next question is, there's some flexibility with what the labor commissioner can do, and you have the ability to maybe lean into some spaces that we haven't seen out of that office. And so to that end, how can the labor commissioner in the department really be shaping and contributing to the development of Oklahoma's workforce, maybe in new or different ways? As you've been thinking about, hey, what would bring my flair to the office I'd bring?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
I'd like to do it and look more long term. I mean, workforce is the number one issue we face in this state. And partly it's a good problem to have, right? We have super low unemployment. Everybody who has a job or who wants a job has a job, and that's a good problem to have. But it makes it hard when we're trying to grow business, when we're trying to recruit business. So how do we work and grow, and where do we need to be, not just 2 years down the road, where do we need to be 5, 10 years down the road? And I think because of our labor shortfalls, because of our low unemployment numbers, we have the opportunity to kind of think outside the box and work with employers and say, do we need some of this stuff, or can it be automated? What do we need to do? How can we make you more efficient? How can we help you grow? But do we need to grow in the same way you've imagined it, that you would have done 10 years ago, or is there a new, better way that you can grow? And then working with K through 12 education to help improve that, so we can recruit businesses here, and not just businesses, so we can recruit employees here who want to work here. Working with career techs, so we're turning out the next generation. And I mean, our career tech systems, we don't brag on ourselves enough in Oklahoma. Our career tech system has like a 95% job placement rate for their graduates coming out of high school. And they do an amazing job working with the businesses in their local communities to do continuing education. Where does that need to go? Where do they need to go in the next 5 to 10 years? Working with the regents, where do we need to see college graduates coming in the state of Oklahoma and going? And then how do we get those? They've done a really good job being able to recruit students, especially out of North Texas, to come to school here. How do we get them to stay here?
Amen. Yeah.
My wife will be mad about me saying that, but she came to law school here and then stayed in Oklahoma, even though she's from Texas.
Yeah, it's a perfect example, though. I mean, if we wanted to come and then and do exactly what your wife did, which is build a family, build a business, and really invest in Oklahoma. We want more of that, right?
Exactly. And I mean, you talk to Lieutenant Governor Pennell, and he talks about how people visit Oklahoma for tourist events, and they realize, man, I really like it. I want to move here. I want to move my family here. I want to move my business here. How do we take that down lower? How do we take these kids that are coming to OU from a Dallas suburb and say, okay, you got educated here, you like it here, how do we keep you here as an employee?
Love that. And I think that's one of our best talent pipelines. Is going to be the university system in drawing those kids in, and much credit to the legislature for encouraging, frankly, Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University to really grow. As long as we can make sure that Oklahoma kids are getting there, let's get a lot of those North Texas kids in, because we need that workforce. Let me pivot to a little bit more kind of a higher level question, and I really want to get your kind of perspective, but your personal perspective on free enterprise. How do you define free enterprise?
That's an interesting question. I'm from rural Oklahoma, so, I mean, we basically don't like the government telling us how to do anything. But no, I mean, free enterprise is about being able to take an idea and put your time and effort and soul into it and build it without a lot of government interference.
Yeah.
The government needs to come in and do the basic level protections, and that's something like the Labor Department does, where they've got an OSHA program who comes in where they don't issue fines and fees. They embed an OSHA inspector with a business, help them work out all their safety kinks, certify them so that when the federal OSHA inspectors show up, they can show them their certificate and move on. To me, that's always been kind of my best form of government. Encourage, incentivize, but don't mandate.
Yeah.
And I think that's where free enterprise is. We have an amazing ability in this country. One of my best friends from high school, barely graduated high school, but incredibly smart, but just tough home life, built a dozer business into a multi-million-dollar earth-moving and dozer company. And no other country in the world would he be able to do that.
Yep.
I mean, you put the framework in place so that if you're willing to work hard and if you're willing to be more efficient, smarter than everybody else, you can grow in this country, and that's where we are.
Well, and you answered it really well, because the second part of that question is going to be, you're going to be in a unique position. And I think what we're always trying to establish right up front with candidates is, do they believe in free enterprise? Do they believe in free markets and in this system that really we believe just raises all boats? But then you also have to balance that with being a regulator too, right? And so I think what I think our members are always asking is, do they get that part? Look, we know we need to have that. We need to protect workers. We need to have worker safety. We need to have safety and regulations in place. But there's a balance there.
Yep.
But it's really important for our members to know, but are you coming from it, with a really healthy understanding of free enterprise? And you do.
And I do. And I think one of the perfect examples of that is the payroll protection plan that the Labor Department runs. If you have an employee who gets shorted a paycheck, they can come and complain to the Labor Department. And I think it's important to have somebody, because you are able to issue fines, fees, and hold business accountable, but have somebody in there who realizes the difference between a payroll glitch that happens and somebody who's legitimately a bad actor who's trying to take advantage and screw their employees. And so having somebody there who, again, supports free enterprise, realizes that, listen, things happen, make sure it doesn't do again, protect your employees. That's separate than somebody who's coming out here and their whole business model is based on, all right, we've got a fraudulent system where we're only going to pay our employees 11 of their 12 paychecks.
Right, yeah. And I think the Labor Department's got a great system in place to really fairly adjudicate those things.
Yes.
But it takes a leader at the top to make sure that we're going to do the right thing, but not be overly onerous on businesses. Let me ask you another question, it's kind of more specific into policy. As the labor commissioner, the department enforces wage and hour laws in Oklahoma. I wanted to get your take on State Question 832, which is the minimum wage increase that'll be on the ballot coming up here in June, as well as not just the minimum wage increase, but on tying future wage increases to CPI. What's your take on that?
I've always believed that the free enterprise system and markets dictate what wages need to be. And we've seen this time and time again. Every time we've increased, at least in Oklahoma, a federally mandated minimum wage law, we've seen increase in cost, and we've seen companies have to lay off employees. No better example of this than what California did to their fast food employees. And they've seen massive amounts of automation and downsizing in their work staff. We don't need a minimum wage law, and definitely not one of the most liberal minimum wage laws in the entire country that's indexed to some random federal equation that it raises exponentially forever to go into effect here. I have horrible eating habits. There's a Taco Bell that I drive through in Guthrie on my way home. They've had a help wanted sign for the last 6 months, $12 an hour, starting hourly salary to work at the Taco Bell in Guthrie. $5 more than the federal minimum wage, and it's dictated not by any law or statute in place, it's dictated by the marketplace because they can't find employees. That's how the system's supposed to work. If we do this, all we're going to see is extra added extra added onerous on small businesses. We're going to see overtime dry up. I had a farmer who runs a produce farm talk to me, and he says, I have these employees who want to work, and they come and they work for me because they can not only get their 40 hours a week, but then they can get 20 hours of overtime. He goes, if I have to pay these minimum wage laws, or if we have to pay this new federally mandated or state mandated minimum wage, I won't be able to hire them. I maybe will be able to hire one person and keep them to their 40 hours a week and not give anybody their overtime they need. And I think they're going to try to sell this state question based off emotion, like we try to sell everything. But when you really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's going to hurt small businesses, and it's going to hurt the employees that aren't going to be able to have these jobs and opportunities that are available to them now.
That's well said. Well said. I think we'll just kind of clip that up and send that out as to why people should be opposed to it. All right, let's wrap up. I know we've run out of time, but land the plane for us. Kind of tell us, in 30 seconds, you're excited about being labor commissioner, and why. And is there anything we didn't cover that you need to say, by golly, you guys need to know this, or just kind of wrap us up and tell us why you're running and why you're excited about it?
Yeah, I'm just excited to continue to serve the state of Oklahoma. I spent 4.5 years in the United States Marine Corps. I could have re-enlisted. I could have went and been a contractor. I decided I wanted to come home because I love this state, and this is where I wanted to raise my family. Luckily, it took me a while to find a wife, but I finally did, and we got a family. This is where I want Jack to grow up, and I mean, he's the fourth or fifth John Pfeiffer to call Oklahoma home, and I want his son, which he'll have to name John Pfeiffer, it's like a family law,
that's right.
To be able to grow and raise a family and start a business here too. I mean, this is amazing land. We have amazing natural resources. We have amazing people. We just have to have a government that matches how amazing our citizens are and tries to get out of its way and let our citizens get on with their business.
I don't think we could end it better than that. You summed it up really well, and it leads me to how I've been entering all these interviews. Thank you for being willing to run, and thank you for being willing to sacrifice time away from your family to serve your state, because you're right. Without good people serving, we get the government we deserve. And thank you for doing it and putting yourself on the ballot. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.